Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the June 20th workshop of the County Commissioners. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The first thing we have to discuss today is we have our district attorney, Matt Margeson, in here. So come on down, Matt, and bring us up to speed of what's going on in the court system.
Gentlemen, thank you for inviting me today. Commissioners, I have a issue that I want to bring to y'all's attention because I think it's something within the realm of the county commissioners and something that I want you to be aware of within the community. So we have open and available attorney positions at the DA's office. As you guys know, Will First is leaving at the end of this month. He is going into a setting where he will be in private practice. We are losing literally a decade or more of experience from this job, and we are replacing it with a gal who is fresh out of law school. And while very smart and very capable, and I'm sure is going to do an excellent job for our community, it's going to take time to get this individual up to speed. And even then, I still have 2 open attorney positions at the DA's office. We are having quite a lot of difficulty filling these positions. It's not a matter of funding. I'm not coming here asking you guys for more money. I don't think we can fund our way out of the problem. The issue is pretty straightforward, and that is that there is a lack of housing within our community. I have had 3 separate individuals who we've interviewed who I thought would be excellent for the position, who I offered a competitive salary as far as salaries for district attorneys, deputy district attorneys with their commensurate amount of experience had. And one was from the Texas area, another was from the Front Range, and all of them, in looking at what I could pay as far as the salary goes, which again is competitive within the industry, and looking at what housing was going to be here, they were not able to make that transition because they couldn't afford to switch. So I pulled up some numbers for you guys, and I just want to go through those. From Rocket Homes website, the median list price for a home in Montezuma County is $310,000. That is up 11% from last month. 11.1% in fact. That's a $31,000 difference. We are in a position as a district attorney's office to pay a starting salary for somebody coming out of law school with no experience, who we're going to train, $60,000 a year, and I think that's a fair, reasonable, and equitable salary to pay somebody in that position. With experience, that number goes up and can go up to as high as $75,000 for a deputy district attorney with reasonable experience, with trial experience, somebody that knows what they're doing that I'm not going to have to train for the next 6 months. If you look at that number for that median list price for a house, that number translates roughly, depending on what the buyer brings to the table, to a mortgage in the vicinity of $1,950, given the present state of financing, the fact that interest rates are on the rise. Again, I don't think that I can reasonably spend my way out of this problem and say, I'll just throw more money at this. That's not going to be helpful from an inflationary standpoint. What we need is affordable housing within our community. It's not as bad for the district attorney's office as it is for teachers. I've spoken with members of the RE1 and Town of Dolores school boards and members from the community there. A starting salary for a teacher for the Dolores school system, not Dolores County, but the Town of Dolores, is just over $35,000. As you can see, there is not an ability to bring in teachers from outside. There's not an ability, and in my mind, to bring in district attorneys from the outside unless they have a spouse that's also making good money. And so what I want to ask the county commissioners to consider is what options we have available to us for affordable housing for members of the community, like teachers, like deputy DAs, like law enforcement officials who are going to be able to contribute so much to this community and who we have a desperate need for. I don't know what that looks like in practice, but I know who to bring that concern to, and that's y'all. If we had affordable housing where I could explain to somebody, you're going to pay $1,000 a month in rent, but you'll have the ability to build up some money over time to then invest in housing later on in the future, I think I could make the sale for the deputy district attorney positions that we very desperately need to fill. I will tell you I have a DA in trial tomorrow in Dolores County. I am in docket tomorrow in Judge Plu's courtroom. There is a docket going for Judge Walker, and there is a docket going for Judge Lawrence, all on Tuesday, and that's it. That is the total number of attorneys that we presently have available. We literally are just meeting the amount of warm bodies we need to throw into courtrooms. And the position that I'm in is one where I'm having a very difficult time making the pitch to new attorneys to come into this community. And it's difficult because of a particular issue. And so I'm asking you guys, to the extent that you have thoughts on how to deal with the issue here, I'm asking for help, input, and assistance. I really am looking for what I can tell these folks that I'm interviewing and say, I know that there's a housing shortage in Montezuma County. I know that that's an issue, and here's what we're doing to solve that. So that's the thing I'm bringing to you guys today.
Let me speak a little bit to that. And is Nicole in the?
No, I think she left. She said
Did
she
she
was going
leave?
to leave at noon.
So get with Nicole
Okay.
tomorrow, and then also get with Jessica. So
Got it.
we had a meeting in here last Thursday discussing the IHOP grant and some of the grants that we are moving forward. And I'm not going to use the term affordable. I'm going to use the term workforce, because workforce housing is just exactly what you expressed, and that's what we are working with and we are dealing with. So going after these grants, it helps to get the infrastructure in, sometimes some land banking. There's other things in there, but she can explain it by far better than I can.
Great.
For what we are looking at, because we know that the workforce housing is such a shortage. So I just did some real quick math here. So if you start at $60,000 and the affordability for a mortgage per a banker standpoint is anywhere from 30 to 34%, depending on the person. So if you go to 34%, they can go up to $20,400 annually for a mortgage payment, which equates to $17,000 a month. Or I'm sorry,
What?
$1,700 a month. So when we use the term affordability, the only way I can equate it is to what that person's salary is, and then take it back to the banking industry. So that's a pretty fair amount of money if the inventory is available.
Right.
So I think what you're saying is that the inventory is not available.
I
At
think
that
over-
range, it could be at higher or,
I think overall that the suppression of inventory, so we have less inventory than we have people wanting to buy, and that's just driving pricing.
Correct.
That's,
so the Housing Authority of Montezuma County is in the process right now of and don't quote me on this, but by the end of this month, those 42 units should be open. Those are 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and they're rentals for right now, obviously.
Sure.
But that gives them a period of time that they can then step into something, or gives them a year or two, whatever they need, to then find something that they can move up into. So there is housing that's opening up, like I said, 42 units of the Housing Authority by the end of this month. They do have to apply and get in there, and they're very nice units. It's walking distance from this office. It's 2 blocks away.
Hey, mine's right upstairs, so it's walking distance from mine too then.
So,
There's another project scheduled over on,
Montezuma, or Empire.
yeah.
So
I think it's
that's coming
46
also
units.
too. So there are
Excellent.
some, now those are gonna get occupied pretty quickly
Sure, yeah.
if they don't speak for them right away. So you might call the Housing Authority and see where they're at with those applications, and see if they have some available and some left, because really it's not affordable housing. I wanna change the transition of the term to workforce housing, because that is a young attorney, that is a school teacher, that is
Right.
a PD officer or a sheriff's officer. And that's kind of what we're looking at. So, like I said, looking at a $60,000 a year income, 34% is 20,400, divided by 12 is 1,700 a month.
Right, and I, as I said initially, the plan isn't to come here and say, hey, I need to
Yeah.
pay these folks more
So
money.
we are working on it. We are working with the group, the Economic Development Group, and then get with Jessica Thurman and get with Nicole Glaser?
Yeah.
And they can give you more specifics on those grants that we're working with. Shaq obviously has left us, but that's one of the things that he's gonna be working with, also with Region 9, is workforce housing. So the inventories only get created as quick as it can get created.
Right, it's not gonna get fixed tomorrow.
No, it's,
And there's a lack of contractors. I mean, every contractor you talk to is busy.
And lack of material.
Materials
it's
shortages.
a lack,
I
so
know a pretty good one, candle something in.
they're gonna trickle in.
Yeah.
However, they can still be found, so I would, for short-term Band-Aid right now, call the Housing Authority, see what they have, and see if you have anybody that, now I realize that they may not want to rent forever, but
Well, but I think it's
just a Band-Aid
I
to
think
get
it's
you
a
going.
good step towards transitioning into long-term housing. If you have
Mhm.
an affordable rental and you can still set aside some money, and you're working towards building up that $20,000 down payment that you're
Yep.
gonna need, that's something.
So we are taking steps to do it, and the groups right here within the county are taking steps to do it. It's just a matter of, we've identified the problem, we understand it exists, and we are working as quickly as we can.
This
to-
problem has no short-term solution.
I appreciate y'all's help and input, and I knew that, frankly, I knew if I came and sat down and told you about it, that there likely was something that was being worked on. It's not like anybody who sees the for sale sign out there and sees the fact that that's out for, a week, maybe 2 now, before that house is off the market. I think everybody recognizes the issue. Thanks for giving me a place to go with this, because honestly, I've got to get more people into the office.
So, first thing, my recommendation, I think I can speak for all of us, is the Housing Authority is opening up those 42 units, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, depending on who they are and what they have. It could work. And that's right away. And then, the transition, it may take a year to something else that they can move up into, but that's just gonna be a matter of time, because we can't create it
I appreciate y'all's time, effort, and energy on this. I came to you with a question. You guys have any questions for me?
At this time.
well,
If it's that critical that you need somebody that bad, go talk to them. If you got it, rent one of them. You have a person that you can interview, tell them, I have a place for you to live.
well,
Clarissa and I have
You may have to expand your thinking about what you need to do ahead of time
Clarissa and
in
I have
order to
actually
get a place for them to live, so that
Yeah,
Because these things are gonna go.
yeah, we've considered that
They're
option.
gonna get
and
occupied, so,
Simply,
you know,
having housing units that we already have available and ready from a rent standpoint, we would hate to do that. We'd hate to have the expenditure without a guarantee from these people. But I think in chatting with the housing authority, there might be some creative ways that we could work something out along those lines.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I recommended that. You know, we're gonna have to be a little more flexible, like Commissioner Copenever said, in how we do things nowadays, because the way it was in the past, even just a year ago, is not applicable to today.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it also. I mean,
yeah, somebody's coming here and you have the opportunity for them, that you have a place for them to go look at, that's available to them for housing. It makes a lot of difference to people, you know, because they don't have to hunt around. They don't have to do all these things until they get going and can establish their own down payment and do, like you said, buy their own house. But
and like we say, it could be just a transitional housing, because
yeah,
you need them here to work and they need to go to work, and the transition could take a year, could take 2 years. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but
Sure.
we're gonna have to think differently on how we approach everything. And we are definitely looking at, and that's why we're looking at some of these grants. I know because I just signed the IHOP grant 2 weeks ago, a week ago. 10 days. So we're trying. We're moving as quickly as we can, but I know it's not quick enough.
No, I appreciate y'all's input on this, because honestly, I've come in here looking, hat in hand, looking for suggestions here, because I know what we need to do to get folks down here, and once we do, this is not a difficult place to fall in love with, and I think people really genuinely like the community once they give it an opportunity and they live here for a bit. I just need to get them here. I just need that first 6 months. But thank you, folks. I very much appreciate it. If y'all don't have anything else for me, as I said, happy to answer questions, but otherwise I'm gonna head back upstairs and start working on some trial
Just
prep.
real quick, one
Yep, sure.
question. How are the courts going? Are they everything open, everything flowing kind of back to normal, or?
Everything's open. Back to normal, no, but we are working through that backlog of cases that we've got. That's why we have folks pretty consistently in trial, have throughout the course of spring and will well into summer. And that's a good thing. We're cutting through that backlog. We're making strides, and it has been a godsend to have the courts back open and running at peak efficiency. There's not a masking requirement anymore. I can go in, I can talk directly to jurors. Nothing's blocking my view, blocking my face. It's a nice thing to be able to look folks not just in the eye, but see their whole
Right.
face and really get a sense of them when we're doing jury selection. And so from that perspective, things have been going quite well.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
What kind of impact do you see from repeat offenders?
Quite a lot. Let's sort of break it down into terms of what we know as far as numbers go. We have a number of repeat offenders that commit relatively low-level crimes, misdemeanor type offenses, that the maximum available punishment on a Class 1 misdemeanor now is 364 days of incarceration. It's rare to get a maximum punishment in most misdemeanor cases. And so a lot of times what we see is folks in our misdemeanor dockets that we've seen over and over and over. Now, for certain charges like DUI, that does eventually lead to felony DUI charges for domestic violence. That can also lead to habitual domestic violence charges. So if somebody has acquired 3 DUIs within their lifetime, and then there's a 4th DUI offense, that's now a felony offense. It's an F4. That felony offense is obviously punishable much more harshly than the DUI, the misdemeanor version of DUI is. For domestic violence offenses, the same sort of basic rule applies. There's some caveats and addendums there. But essentially what happens is if you pick up enough misdemeanor domestic violence offense convictions, then the state legislature has made there is a sentence enhancer to a Class 5 felony for any subsequent misdemeanor felony offense. And what is very disheartening and displeasing is trying to wait somebody out so they pick up enough offenses that you can charge them at a high enough level to make any actual impact on what's going on. So what does that do to our dockets? Well, we have people that relatively consistently on a 6-month or so basis are back within the court system. We know that there's not probation obviously is inadequate to address their needs. It's not going to do anything. They're going to still commit offenses, low-level offenses again, but offenses nonetheless that require our time and attention, and we see them back over and over and over again. If there was a long-term program or process in place through the state to address these kind of offenders who are they don't do anything that's going to cause them to be put in the Department of Corrections for extremely long periods of time, but they also are folks that take up hours and hours of docket time and an expenditure of resources that gets very hard to justify, other than, you can either take it to trial or you can take your 6-month sentence in county jail, which again causes a problem for us in so much as we now have low-level offenders in county jail that we still have to pay for, that the sheriff still has to house, feed, and clothe. And yeah, that to answer your question, I see a lot of those. As far as felony offenses, repeat offenders, I try as hard as I can not to have that. I would much rather sentence somebody that has habitual criminal convictions, or the ability for us to file those habitual criminal convictions, to a lengthy period of incarceration. It doesn't mean that they're going to never be released, but it does mean that that release date can be 8 years, 10 years down the road, and at least provide the community with a period of time in which they're not here and they're not committing those high-level crimes. It's the low-level offenders really that, honestly, it's the biggest thorn in our side from a time management and just resources to deal with problem. It's a good question, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Matt. And like I said, get with those people, and then we'll go from there. But we are diligently working on it. It's just a matter of, it's a tough situation to try and handle right now. All right.
Thank you,
sir.
gentlemen. I appreciate your time.
All
Thanks.
right. Okay, Mr. Chaffin, come on up. You can sit right in that chair and use that mic. First of all, thank you for coming back, because our work session, this is really the place where we can take a lot of time and really talk over things with you. So
That's just fine. No problem whatsoever.
appreciate it. So you were asking for a letter of support for a GOCO grant for the community center, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not sure, Ian, if I don't think we had the information, so we didn't have anything that we could establish.
Yeah. What I got here is an email from GOCO gal that I've been talking to. I'll read it if you want. It says,
Sure.
Chandler, during our conversation, I forgot to ask who owns and manages the Lewis Arriola Community Center for GOCO grants. We would request an eligible partner to be the lead applicant, such as a local municipality or county. In other words, we're our own entity. We're not like the fire department or whatever. See, we got to run it through. To get a GOCO grant, it's got to go through like you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
And what that amounted to last time, whoever done the sidewalks or who built the bathroom or whatever, when it come time to pay them, they present a bill. We brought it to the gal here. She made out the check, paid them, got a receipt. That's all.
So then,
It has to run through
Right.
So then as we talked, we're just a pass-through agent.
Yeah.
So is
What we-
all,
What we need is a scope of the project, what it's gonna do and what you're gonna do with the money, so we can write that letter of support.
I didn't hear what you said, Lindsay.
We need, from you guys, what the scope of the project is going to be, what it's gonna entail, what you're gonna spend the money for, so we can write that letter of support and be
Oh.
specific as to what it goes for.
So you want a letter?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, I can get the secretary to write up something.
so I think you're asking for two different things is what I'm hearing, right? You're asking for a letter of support for the grant itself, and if successful with the grant, that we be the fiscal agent.
Correct, because, you know, if we
Yes.
get turned down, you know.
Right.
We don't, but, last time it worked very well going through the county. It was a good grant. They got lots of hoops to jump through before, you know, cause it's not federal, but it's state government. A lot of stuff I had to do, and probably, they told me not as much this time, because we went through all the hoops before. But, our playground is, you know, it's in bad shape. It's 18 years old, and the money we spent from the grant on it was, the little kids' playground was, you know, minimum, just what we thought we could afford. Because the outside bathrooms, the pavilion, the ball field, sidewalks, that's where the big end of the money went. And now we're wanting to update the back, it's behind the
Right.
community center.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to ask gentlemen to get with Nicole, with him, because obviously she understands all the grant stuff and
Right.
what we need to accomplish, and then if there is a administrative fee that we have to put in there for our administrative, because we don't, because that has to be part of it with us being the fiscal agent as a pass-through. So, can you leave us your contact information, Chan, and then we'll have our grant writer get with you so that the proper information is,
Okay?
Yeah, we don't wanna mess this up.
Huh?
We don't wanna mess this up.
No, I don't, I'm good at messing stuff up myself, so, but I do kinda know what GOCO expects
yep,
from
And-
what, the last grant. So, you know, I'm not on the board, you know, I retired in January. But the board wanted me to do this because you know, they're trying to do a lot of other stuff and asked me if I would, and I told them sure. And we're just at the early stages of getting the what type of playground stuff we want and how much it costs. And the lady that come down and see me about a week ago was the same company that furnished Lewis Arriola their new playground. And man, all that stuff is out of their mind, you know. It has to meet ADA and all that specs, and we know that, so it'll take some time. But
sure.
who do I leave?
Just leave, if you wanna just write down your name, phone number, contact information. Vicky, can I get you to get with Chan, take down all of his information?
Okay, we can do that, that's no,
Yeah, I'll just have you get with our PIO officer back here. If you guys wanna just go out into the hallway, get all the information, I'll have her get you set up with Nicole, our grant writer, who
okay,
does that for us on a daily basis.
okay,
That way we can make sure that we have everything in there that we need,
okay.
all right?
I have one other request
Sure.
while I'm here. Wayne Rogers Jr., I guess, or Lavina Saunders Estate, or whatever it's called, gave us 4 loads of gravel. And I was wondering if there's any chance you guys, 4 end dumps. They gave it to the community center, you know, because it disappears. And I was wondering if you could furnish it hauling of the gravel.
For
for Lewis Arriola Community Center.
They own the gravel, they just need somebody to haul it.
We need someone to haul it, cause we don't have trucks, you know.
I'll take care of that for you personally.
Oh,
The county doesn't have to do it. I'll take care of it for you.
just 4 end dumps, well, that's awful nice. I don't know when or where they want it, but Jason or someone will tell you where to dump it.
Okay.
That's
Oh.
good.
I'll just have Vicky get your information and leave Jason's information also, and then, we can go from there.
Okay.
All right? Thank
Thank
you.
you guys for your time.
Thank you,
Yep.
Chan.
She's coming right around the corner, right there. All right. Item number 2, item number 3.
When I fix this, in the meantime, now you can, whatever you display on this wireless will go out to YouTube too. Cool.
Okay.
So, there you are, you're already up.
Okay, we'll go right into our NCA discussion.
So, just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. Gerald and I attended a NCA group meeting last week with our steering committee, just talked about some mechanics for bill submission. We talked a little bit about the Southwest meeting. I think the hope is that the bill will be submitted around mid-July. I think that's what Senator Bennett's gonna shoot for. So that's what we're looking at. We do have a little bit of a situation with some of the language, and I just wanted to show it to you guys so you guys understand what we're dealing with. We talked a little bit before when we brought this bill to you guys about how hard we all worked for protections for those water users upstream outside the covered area. The general idea was that we wanted to protect those small diversions, those small stock ponds from the Section 7 analysis. We don't want those small water users outside the area to have to go through and show that their project is not unreasonably diminishing the water in the NCA area. In this language here, if you look down, and this is the red line version, but you see, let me get it to a place you can see. So right at the top of the page there, it says limitations. It says subject to the requirements of this section, nothing in paragraph 1, that's referring to the top. And then it says prevents outside the covered land, and then it says these limitations that we discussed. The construction of diversion dams and stock ponds, new minor water developments. So in essence, those wouldn't be prevented from happening because of what's up here. There's a couple words in this section that give me a little bit of pause, and it's subject to the requirements of this section. So our whole work group, I think we all agreed that we want to protect those small water users. I think this language, subject to the requirements of this section, and what it's talking about is this whole section as a whole, section 402.
Yeah.
It's a little bit ambiguous as to whether, due to that language, the unreasonably diminished standard up here, where it talks about it talks about anything located outside the covered land that would unreasonably diminish the resource values described in section 101 and 102. And so I think that there's some concern that because of this subject to the requirements of this section language and the limitations provision. I'm sorry, it gets this language right at the top here, the subject to the requirements of this section. We're a little bit concerned that in essence will lead to some ambiguity, and my concern is that what that's going to do is it's conceivably going to expose some of these small water users upstream to litigation. Now, how this statute is interpreted, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily prevents the small water users from getting the protection of not having to go through Section 7 analysis, but I think it is ambiguous. So that was something we talked about in our work group last week. We're going to continue to work to try to get that clarified. I think it's important. I think it's important to pull out that ambiguity because if that ambiguity is there, even if it still provides the protections, which I think it does, I mean, it certainly does open a door later on for litigation against these small water users. And so, just wanted to kind of provide you guys with an update. Gerald, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add.
Well, I think, you know, I understand exactly what Ian's saying, you know, I don't know that we'll ever get all the,
Ambiguity out of it, because how do you do that?
because,
How-
but I think the thing,
Gerald, I can bring this over to you if, if you need to go up and down here.
anyway, yeah, the small, you know, the fact that we actually got some of these minor classifications and the fact that the small is in there, see that Congress has actually said what large is.
Yes.
Yep.
So the fact that we have that in there, I think is actually a good thing, that it delineates small and minor projects, okay? So I think all of that's in there. Part of the discussion was about how, well, that leaves some ambiguity too as to what's small and but Congress has actually delineated what large is. So I think that stuff, I'm not worried about that. And I think, you know, I mean, basically, if they really, you know, want to take care of all the small owners, just like what Ian's saying, we should just take that little piece out. But if they really push us on it, I don't think it's worth fighting over personally, myself. But it'd be better if it was out of there, just to get rid of the ambiguity.
Absolutely.
Possibility
So,
of it, like Ian said.
okay,
I was actually, well, I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll have to see what they say when they come back this week, because we're gonna have another meeting this week with them, so.
Well, and I think the important thing is everybody in our work group agrees that we want to protect these small users.
Yeah.
And if that's the intent, then we need to get rid of that language. Because there's absolutely no reason that under that limitation section, it can't just say, nothing in paragraph 1 prevents, and then it says boom. When it has subject to the requirements of this section, there's gonna be a question, well, what requirements are we talking
Subject,
about?
right.
And so,
Yeah.
we're all in agreement in that group as to what we want.
so
yeah.
we need
strike
to-
it?
That's
Is
my
what you're saying,
suggestion.
Yeah.
strike it,
That's,
then
that's what we're pushing for, so
Okay.
we'll see.
They're just not wanting to go back to their groups and getting that taken out. They're getting a lot of pushback about this whole deal.
And-
A lot of
and
the
you're
environmental
saying that
groups,
it's
a lot of
probably-
the environmental groups are pushing back, wanting to just leave the wild and scenic on there.
So the longer we procrastinate, the worse off we might be.
Yes.
So,
I
is
mean,
it-
yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, we'd like to see that taken out of there, but if it really comes to push, come to shove, personally, I think.
But
we're
in the
okay.
spirit of this negotiation, which in 50 years will all be gone, well, you probably won't be, but I'm looking at
Yes, yes.
at the three of us, we probably won't be around.
There's some of us I know won't be.
Okay,
We'll
well then
keep-
I guess I will say if you can get it without any other real limitations, then do it, and if not, my vote, which I know we can't vote right now, but my thought would be, let's get going, because
Well, and
otherwise we're gonna,
That's what I think too.
we're gonna
You
get-
know,
we're gonna procrastinate too long, and then we're gonna get
Yeah.
something worse.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention
Okay.
today, so you guys understood what we were dealing with, and then we'll go in Thursday, and certainly Gerald and I will both keep you updated.
Yeah. What time is the one on Thursday? Do you remember? I got it on
I've
my
got it
phone.
here,
I just have.
10 o'clock, Gerald.
10, okay.
Okay,
But otherwise, everything's going along, and I think actually Senator Bennett's gonna go ahead and with this, even though the Southwest voted the way they voted.
well,
That's not, he's
I
not-
did have the opportunity to talk to some of those other counties, and I think that we, due to a lack of communication between the commissioners and the representatives voting, I think the vote went a different way than it will today, after some conversation. So, I know that they don't meet except for monthly, but I think in July you'll see that it will change. So, pretty confident about that. All right.
Ready to go.
The other, I'm sure you guys all got that email about the water conservation deal.
Mhm.
Down from the Bureau Rec?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We actually had a meeting that afternoon and talked about that whole process of where they thought we were gonna make up 4 million acre feet of water.
Well, we'll just,
And I may have got a little upset with them because I basically told them that they were not gonna get much help from up here until they fixed that problem down there.
yeah.
Because every time we produce a whole bunch of water in the state of Colorado, we send it to Lake Powell and they turn it out. They let them pull over their allocation and they don't hold them to their allocation. So those reservoirs are never gonna build up as long as they keep doing that. And I basically told her, until you fix that problem down there, as far as I'm concerned, you're not gonna get any help from us. Because every time, it's the same deal.
You can't pull over what you're allocated.
Well, you can never build the reservoir back up if you keep letting them do that. And I'm sure she may not even known what was happened in the past, but when they did this before, when we had that drought in 2002,
Mhm.
at that time, because of all the water we were producing in the 80s and the 90s, California and them were pulling way over their allocations every year because Lake Powell was full, and so was Meade. And they were pulling all this extra water. Well, in 2002, we go through the drought, and in 2004, they told them, you gotta start shutting down to your allocation, but they gave them 12 years to get back down to their 4.3 feet in California, just California alone. They were pulling like 6 million or so, and it took them, the Bureau of Reclamation gave them 12 years to get back down to your allocation.
And they never did.
Well, I think they probably have, but it's only because they've been forced to because there's no water there. But the whole thing of it is because they let them have that 12 years
It
to
just
get
kept-
down, Lake Powell just kept going like that.
Mhm.
We can't have that happen. You can't. There's no way to fix the system if we're gonna do that. So
That's just like
I-
it's got a constant
I,
hole in it.
I got a little upset with them about that because they gotta fix that. And they need to hear it from somebody.
And they
Because
can't,
it's obviously, they
they can't have what we can't give what we don't have.
Well, the thing of it is in 2019, we produced almost 16 million acre feet of water across that border to Lake Powell. Colorado did. Because we had all that snow that year. Well, they
They
still,
took it off and didn't put it
did you
back in
see
the
Lake Powell
reservoir.
come up?
No.
I mean,
So they
that's what I mean,
utilized all
they've
of
got to fix that other end. I don't think we can fix this system if they don't start taking care of it down there.
Okay,
I mean, just so you guys are aware.
okay.
Well, they're-
Well,
Somebody said that Montezuma County Commissioner yelled at him, why, you know, it was me.
that's all right.
Sometimes that
because-
has to happen for
Well,
eyes to get,
They need to hear it, because
Wait.
they've got to fix that other end, because we cannot. I mean, Mother Nature's only gonna produce so much up here,
right,
and we can only do so much,
yeah. And that is out of our control.
yeah,
That is within their control.
yeah. It is
Okay.
in their control.
All right. Well, I guess then that brings us to the end of our discussion. Is there anything else on that, Ian?
No, not right now.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, well then this meeting will be adjourned at 2:15.
All right.